Okay, so I'm installing the Hansshow version V2 or 2.5. One of the things I don't tell you is that removing this guy is quite a bit harder than you might think. You have to really pull on it to get it off. It's quite in there. At least it was on my truck. Maybe on other people's trucks it's not. So I'm just routing the cables right now, kind of rough routing them, putting them through the hole. And there's only two cables. Some of the older mirrors had a power cable coming off of the unit here, so this makes it a lot easier. There's no real interference potentially going to happen with the GPS. So I'm routing it just kind of up here right now. I put the wires behind these sort of clips here to keep them in place. We'll see how that goes. So there's really only one location to get it underneath the airbag. So it's actually, so if you look at the peak here, between this spot and this spot, so under here you can actually lift up the airbag and get your fingers underneath it to fish to wire. Any other spot is too tight. So you got to come in from over here, and that should work. Okay, to be honest with you, I kind of made a stupid mistake. It would have made my life a lot easier if I had fished the wire, the USB, through this way and back to the mirror. That's obvious because I'm an idiot. But anyways, there is space to get this through underneath this airbag. It does go through. Probably wish I had put the USB that way. Would have been 1 billion times smarter. However, this is really the only space that you are going to be able to easily get through any cables. Up here, it's too tight. It's tied to the truck frame too tightly. So, yeah, note to whoever, push your USB that way if it's not obvious. It's probably obvious to every other human on the planet besides me. I think probably most of you know this red cable's not needed. It's for some other version of the mirror, so they could just go ahead and cut that off. So once that's cut off, make your life a little bit easier anyways. A little less things to be dragging around through the truck. So after I routed that, kind of started putting the trim back, and should work all the trim back. One thing to note, you make sure that your Cybertruck, if you have the Foundation Series, you want to make sure that that Foundation Series mat is out of there, or else you're going to have issues trying to get all of this back in again. It's not obvious. I've made a lot of obvious mistakes. So anyways, the connector is quite easy. You don't need to take anything off more than this trim piece right here. This is the only actual piece that needs to come off. So this little piece here and this piece here. So these two, and there's one white connector underneath there. I think you've seen it in a previous video, so I didn't bother taking that. And once you're done, you can kind of get your trim all kind of unfolded. Gets a little mangled, and there you go. All right, next I'm taking this out, and I believe this thing pulls down. Let's see how that comes out. I think I need to stop recording. So FYI, these things are not easy to get out, and in fact I was being pretty careful, and I think I ripped it from the molding. So I'm not sure if it's worth taking it out this way. Maybe you guys know a different way, but these are not coming out very easy. So work to the wise. Okay, so I routed the cable. You can kind of see a little bit right there. I need to poke it in. I routed the cable underneath here. I did take this off. I'm not sure if you have to. You could probably do it with a trim tool. And then I routed it up in a channel here. Focus. The channel runs along here, and then you can kind of see it poking out here. That'll go away once I put this back up again. I'm just finishing up this last bit of trim, but actually it did tell you needed to take this off. I think you could probably get by without taking it off, but maybe this is actually one of the easier things to take off, so I would say that's not a bad idea. But anyways, you just take a bit of fish tape, stick it up in this corner. It'll come out here, as you can see. And so that's the last bit of routing. So now I just got to make this a little bit nicer here. And so finish with the trim, and it is absolutely invisible. So you cannot see any of the cables. Unlike in some of the other installs I've seen, there's no cables because I took down the trim here, as I mentioned, and I ran it underneath the airbag. So once this is put back up, it will be pretty seamless. So let's see how that looks when it's all done. So just finishing up this install, I installed this 3D printed one that somebody put online. Changed it a little bit, but the camera is a little bit wonky in there. We'll see if I need to move it again, but it did require 2 amounts of double-sided sticky tape in order to get it on, because this 3D print less than perfect, but from a few inches away it looks pretty good. The one that came with Hansshow I think looks like crap, the design, so I didn't use it. Right now I just put duct tape here. I'm gonna change that to something better, to put the cable between the glass and the metal frame of the truck. The rest of it's stuffed down there. So that is the basic part of the install. It's kind of, let's see. Well, you can see the mirror. What I've done up here, it's just kind of routed that cable so that it's mostly out of the way, but not perfect. In the meantime, the installation on the inside of the truck is seamless. There's no wires anywhere, and there's nothing on the outside. It's completely hidden. So I'll check this out and tell you what I think. Cheers. All right, so one thing I'm noticing right away is it's kind of these black bars on the edges, and I think that's because that case, 3D printed case, might need some modification to allow the full field of view, but I don't know if I need it. Let's take a check and see what it looks like on the highway. So here's in the truck while driving. One thing I have noted, I corrected the shadows in the corners, but the tone of the camera in the rear is a little bit sepia toned, and the front one is kind of bright blue. I'll show you that in a second. So let me just, looks like I'm coming up on a narrow road here. Maybe you should have full self-driving on. Let me just pull up here. So this is the rear camera, and this is the front camera. And now in my mind, the front camera, I don't know if it's going to come out on screen here, but the front camera is a lot sharper. The rear camera kind of seems sepia toned, and the front camera is more like a blue, bright UHD style. So anyways, just one thing to note.